Have you ever wondered why some men, when faced with the storm of rejection or the silent withdrawal of affection, do not chase, do not plead, do not crumble? Why, in a world that celebrates noise and frantic pursuit, there exist men who become more magnetic in their silence, more powerful in their absence? In the dim corridors of longing, where most lose themselves to desperation, there are those who walk away, not as an act of surrender, but as a profound declaration of self-mastery. These are the men who have learned the art of Stoic detachment, a lesson as old as the marble pillars of Rome, whispered by Marcus Aurelius himself. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In the American landscape, where validation is currency and the chase is ritual, the man who walks away is an anomaly. He is the shadow that lingers after the fire has died, the echo that haunts the chamber of lost opportunities. He knows that true strength is not in conquest, but in restraint. He understands that the heart's deepest power is not in its hunger, but in its ability to let go. Most men, when faced with the threat of abandonment, react from the wounded child within, a child desperate for approval, terrified of the cold void left by love's withdrawal. They beg, they bargain, they become smaller, shrinking themselves to fit the shrinking space in another's heart. But the Stoic man does not shrink. He expands into the silence. He accepts the void, not as punishment, but as an invitation to return to himself. Imagine this: a man stands at the edge of a relationship, the air thick with unsaid words, the tension electric. He senses the shift, the cooling of affection, the subtle withdrawal, the unspoken threat of being left behind. Where most would panic, he remains still. He does not rush to fill the silence with apologies or promises. He does not chase after the departing footsteps. Instead, he lets the silence speak. He lets the space between them become a mirror, reflecting not his desperation, but his unyielding presence. This is not arrogance or indifference. It is not the cold detachment of a man who does not care. It is the radical acceptance of what is, the refusal to cling to what no longer serves him. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." The Stoic man revokes the power of external validation. He reclaims his worth from the hands of those who would withhold it. In the psychology of masculine attraction, there is a forbidden truth. What is most desired is often what is most elusive. The man who can walk away, who can sever the cords of attachment without bitterness, becomes a mystery. His absence is felt more deeply than his words ever could be. He becomes the question that lingers in the mind of the one who let him go. What did he see beyond me? What world does he return to when he leaves my embrace? The answer is simple and devastating. He returns to himself. But to reach this level of detachment is not an act of willpower alone. It is the culmination of shadow work, the integration of pain and longing, the transmutation of rejection into wisdom. The Stoic man has faced his own darkness. He has sat in the ashes of disappointment, sifted through the ruins of failed love, and found within them the seeds of resilience. He does not fear solitude, for he has made it his ally. He does not fear loss, for he knows that nothing truly his can ever be taken. There is a quiet rebellion in his silence. In a culture that equates masculinity with dominance and possession, the man who can walk away is a revolutionary. He is not seduced by the promise of fleeting pleasure or the validation of conquest. He is not enslaved by the opinions of others. His value is self-generated, forged in the crucible of self-discipline and acceptance. He is not immune to pain, but he does not let pain define him. You too have felt the pull of desperation, the urge to chase, to explain, to win back what was never truly yours. You have tasted the bitterness of rejection, the hollow ache of absence. But what if you could transform that pain into power? What if instead of chasing after what slips away, you could stand still and let the world come to you? What if you could become the man whose silence speaks louder than words, whose absence is a presence that cannot be ignored? The path is not easy. It requires a brutal honesty with oneself, a willingness to confront the ego's demands and the heart's cravings. It demands that you let go of the stories you tell yourself about worth and love and belonging. It asks you to trust that what is meant for you will find you, not through force or persuasion, but through the quiet gravity of your own being. In the teachings of Seneca, there is a reminder: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The Stoic man refuses to be a victim of his own imagination. He does not invent catastrophes or dwell in the shadows of what might have been. He faces reality as it is, unflinching, unafraid. If love departs, he lets it go. If affection cools, he does not chase after its dying embers. He knows that every ending is a beginning, that every loss is a lesson. The art of walking away is not about punishing others or proving a point. It is about honoring yourself. It is about recognizing when your presence is no longer valued and having the courage to withdraw it. It is about trusting that your worth is not contingent on another's approval, that your happiness does not depend on someone else's affection. It is the ultimate act of self-respect. In the mirror of his own solitude, the Stoic man finds clarity. He sees through the illusions of need and scarcity. He realizes that love, when it is real, does not require begging or chasing. It flows freely, without coercion or manipulation, and when it ceases to flow, he lets it go with grace. There is a magnetic quality to this kind of detachment. It is the energy of a man who is whole unto himself, who does not seek completion in another. It is the quiet confidence of one who has mastered his emotions, who does not react impulsively to the whims of others. He is not cold or unfeeling. He is simply anchored in his own being. You may wonder, is it possible to become this man? Is it possible to cultivate such strength, such serenity, in the face of loss and rejection? The answer lies not in grand gestures or dramatic displays, but in the small, daily acts of self-mastery. It is in the decision to sit with discomfort, to resist the urge to chase, to choose silence over self-betrayal. In the hush that follows a man's departure, something profound begins to take root. The world, so accustomed to the noise of pursuit and the spectacle of heartbreak, is unsettled by his composure. There are no frantic messages, no last-minute confessions, no desperate attempts to reclaim what has slipped away. Instead, there is only the echo of his absence, a silence that speaks of unshakable inner ground. This silence is not emptiness, but fullness. It is the culmination of a journey through the labyrinth of desire and ego, where countless men have lost themselves seeking validation in the eyes of another. The Stoic man, however, has learned that the pursuit of external approval is a mirage. The more one chases it, the further it recedes, leaving only exhaustion and regret in its wake. He understands that to walk away is not to lose, but to reclaim his time, his energy, his very soul. Within the psychology of masculine attraction, there exists an unspoken law. What cannot be possessed cannot be forgotten. The man who walks away, who refuses to trade his dignity for temporary affection, becomes an enigma. He is the unanswered question, the unresolved story. His absence is a riddle that lingers in the mind of the one who expected him to beg, to break, to betray his own standards for a fleeting taste of approval. Instead, he remains a presence, even in his absence, a haunting reminder of self-respect. For the American man raised in a culture that glorifies conquest and despises vulnerability, this path is radical. From an early age, he is taught to equate worth with achievement, to measure success by the number of victories won and hearts claimed. He is conditioned to believe that to lose is to be less, to walk away is to admit defeat. But the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius cuts through these illusions. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoic man understands that the true battlefield is within, and the greatest victory is mastery over oneself. He does not run from pain, he sits with it. He does not numb his longing with distractions or drown his sorrows in fleeting pleasures. Instead, he allows the ache to carve out space within him, to hollow him in ways that make him deeper, wiser, more compassionate. In this crucible, the ego is burned away, leaving only the essential self, untouched by the opinions or actions of others. To those who have not walked this path, his detachment may appear cold, even cruel. Yet beneath the surface there is a fierce tenderness, a devotion to truth that refuses to settle for less than what is real. He does not play games or manipulate emotions. He does not use silence as a weapon, but as a sanctuary, a place to return to himself when the world grows too loud, too demanding, too chaotic. And in this sanctuary, he discovers a paradox. The less he needs from others, the more he is desired. The less he clings, the more others reach for him. The man who can walk away is never truly alone, for he carries within him the company of his own soul. He is not dependent on the shifting tides of affection or the unpredictable weather of another's moods. He is anchored in something deeper, something unshakable. You may feel the stirrings of this power within yourself, the quiet urge to stop chasing, to stop explaining, to stop justifying your existence to those who cannot see your worth. You may sense the exhaustion that comes from living at the mercy of others' approval, the weariness of constantly seeking validation in places where it will never be given freely. What if instead you chose to walk away? Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in peace? The world will test you. It will tempt you with promises of love and belonging, only to withdraw them when you stand firm. It will challenge your resolve, probing for weakness, daring you to break your silence. But each time you choose yourself, each time you resist the urge to chase, to beg, to plead, you grow stronger. Each act of detachment is a step toward freedom, a declaration that your worth is not up for negotiation. The teachings of Epictetus echo through the centuries. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The Stoic man is defined not by the events of his life, but by his response to them. He does not allow rejection to diminish him, nor does he let praise inflate his ego. He remains steady, unmoved by the highs and lows, anchored in the quiet dignity of self-respect. This is not the path of the faint-hearted. It requires courage to walk away when every instinct screams to hold on. It demands discipline to choose silence over self-betrayal, to accept solitude as a gift rather than a curse. It asks you to trust in the unseen, to believe that what is meant for you will never require you to abandon yourself. In the end, the art of walking away is an act of faith. Faith in your own worth, faith in the wisdom of letting go, faith in the unfolding of life beyond your control. It is the recognition that you are not defined by what you possess, but by what you can release. The man who masters this art becomes a force of nature, silent, mysterious, irresistibly powerful. And so in the quiet aftermath of departure, when the world expects you to falter, you stand tall. You do not chase after what is gone, nor do you mourn what might have been. You walk away, not as an act of defeat, but as a triumph of self-mastery, a testament to the enduring power of Stoic detachment. There is a sacred dignity in the way a man turns from what no longer serves him. The world, so often intoxicated by the spectacle of longing, fails to understand the quiet revolution that takes place in the soul of one who chooses to walk away. It is not a retreat, but an ascension, a rising above the petty negotiations of ego and need. He becomes a living paradox, present in his absence, powerful in his restraint. The psychology of this act is rooted in a truth as ancient as the stars. What is truly valuable is never desperate. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote not for acclaim or comfort, but to steel himself against the storms of emotion that threatened to unseat his reason. Receive without pride, let go without attachment, he counseled, and in these words lies the blueprint for a new kind of masculinity, one that does not grasp or cling, but allows, accepts, and ultimately transcends. In the modern American landscape, where the currency of attention is traded with feverish urgency, the man who can walk away is a rare commodity. He is the antidote to a culture of scarcity, where love is hoarded and affection is rationed. He does not barter his presence for scraps of validation. He does not auction his soul for the fleeting approval of those who cannot see his value. Instead, he invests in himself, cultivating a sense of worth that is immune to the fluctuations of external fortune. You may have felt the sting of being overlooked, the ache of being undervalued. You may have found yourself contorting to fit the mold of another's desire, shrinking your truth to avoid the pain of rejection. But consider this: every time you betray yourself for the sake of belonging, you reinforce the lie that you are not enough as you are. Every time you chase after what is running away, you abandon the sanctuary of your own dignity. The Stoic man refuses this bargain. He knows that the cost is too great, that the price of self-betrayal is a life spent in quiet desperation. He chooses instead to bear the discomfort of solitude, to sit with the ache of absence, to let the silence wash over him until it becomes a source of strength rather than a sentence of exile. In this crucible he is forged anew, not as a victim of circumstance, but as the architect of his own fate. There is a magnetic force in this kind of presence. It is the energy of a man who is not swayed by the tides of approval or the winds of rejection. He is a fixed point in a turning world, a pillar of calm in the chaos of desire. Those who encounter him sense his depth, his unspoken confidence. They are drawn to him not because he offers himself freely, but because he withholds himself with intention. He is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. The paradox is this: the more a man clings, the more he is repelled. The more he lets go, the more he is pursued. This is not manipulation, but a reflection of a deeper law, the law of value. What is abundant is taken for granted. What is rare is revered. The Stoic man becomes rare not by pretending to be aloof, but by actually cultivating a life that is rich and full without the need for constant affirmation. He is content in his own company, at peace in his own skin. You may find yourself at a crossroads, torn between the urge to hold on and the call to let go. The world will tell you that to walk away is to admit defeat, to surrender to the inevitability of loss. But the wisdom of the ancients whispers a different story. To walk away is to reclaim your power, to remember that your worth is not contingent on another's recognition. It is to trust that you are enough, even in your solitude. This trust is not blind optimism, but radical acceptance. It is the willingness to face reality as it is, without embellishment or denial. It is the courage to feel the full weight of your longing, to grieve what is lost, and then to rise, unburdened, unbowed, unbroken. In this rising, you become more than you were before. You become a man who is defined not by what he possesses, but by what he can release. The teachings of Seneca ring true. He is most powerful who has power over himself. The Stoic man is not immune to pain, but he is no longer ruled by it. He feels deeply, but he does not drown in his emotions. He acknowledges his desire, but he does not let it dictate his actions. He is a master of himself, and in this mastery lies his freedom. So when the moment comes, and it will come, when you are faced with the choice to chase or to let go, remember the example of those who have walked this path before you. Remember the quiet strength of Marcus Aurelius, the unwavering resolve of Epictetus, the serene acceptance of Seneca. Remember that your power lies not in what you can hold on to, but in what you can walk away from. Let your silence be your answer. Let your absence be your statement. Let the world wonder at the mystery of a man who does not need to be needed, who does not beg to be chosen, who does not fear the emptiness that follows loss. For in that emptiness you will find yourself, whole, complete, and free. There is a moment, subtle yet seismic, when a man stands at the threshold of his own liberation. The air is thick with the ghosts of expectation, the weight of 1,000 unspoken hopes pressing down upon his shoulders. It is here, in this crucible of longing and loss, that the true test of character unfolds. The world holds its breath, waiting to see whether he will falter, whether he will surrender to the gravity of his own need. But the Stoic man, forged in the fires of radical acceptance, does not yield. He knows that to walk away is not to abandon love, but to honor it, by refusing to reduce it to a transaction, by refusing to make his soul a bargaining chip. In the silent theatre of modern relationships, men are often cast as pursuers, their worth measured by their willingness to chase, to persist, to endure humiliation for the promise of connection. Yet beneath this performance lies a deeper truth. The man who can walk away is the one who commands respect. He is the one who understands that love, stripped of dignity, is not love at all, but a hollow imitation, an echo of something sacred, now lost to the noise of desperation. This understanding is not born of arrogance, but of humility, the humility to accept that not every affection will be returned, that not every longing will be satisfied. It is the humility to release the illusion of control, to surrender to the flow of life without bitterness or regret. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" The Stoic man bows to the wisdom of fate, trusting that what is meant for him will arrive in its own time, and that what departs does so for reasons beyond his understanding. In this surrender, he finds a strange and unexpected power. No longer shackled to the whims of others, he becomes a force unto himself. His presence is no longer a plea but a gift, his attention no longer a demand but a blessing. He is free to give without expectation, to love without attachment, to desire without becoming enslaved by his desires. His heart beats with a quiet confidence, a steady rhythm that cannot be disrupted by the unpredictability of others. You too have stood on this threshold. You have felt the ache of wanting, the sting of rejection, the hollow ache of waiting for a message that never comes. You have wondered if you are enough, if you are worthy, if you will ever be chosen. But what if the answer has nothing to do with being chosen and everything to do with choosing yourself? What if the true measure of a man is not how many hearts he can win, but how steadfastly he can stand alone? To walk away is to choose yourself. It is to declare with every silent step that your value is not negotiable, that your dignity is not for sale. It is to say, I am enough, even in my solitude. I am whole, even in my longing. I am free, even in my loss. This declaration reverberates through the psyche, shattering the old scripts of need and scarcity, rewriting the story of what it means to be a man. The world will not always understand. There will be those who call you cold, who mistake your silence for indifference, who see your detachment as a wound rather than a wound's healing. But you know the truth. You know that your silence is not emptiness, but fullness, a fullness that comes from having faced your own darkness, from having made peace with your own company. You know that your absence is not a punishment, but a boundary, a line drawn in the sand, marking where your self-respect begins. In the eyes of others, you become a mystery, a presence that lingers even after you have gone. Your absence is felt more keenly than your presence ever was, not because you withheld love, but because you refused to betray yourself for it. You become the question that haunts the hearts of those who took you for granted. What kind of man walks away so easily? What kind of man does not beg to be loved? The answer is both simple and profound. The kind of man who has learned to love himself. This self-love is not the shallow narcissism of ego, but the deep, abiding respect of one who has faced his own flaws and embraced them. It is the love of a man who knows his worth, who does not need to be completed by another, who is content to stand alone if that is what truth demands. It is the love of a man who can look in the mirror and see not a collection of failures and disappointments, but a soul in the process of becoming. You may feel the pull of old patterns, the urge to chase after what is slipping away, the temptation to prove your worth to those who cannot see it. But remember, every time you choose silence over self-betrayal, every time you walk away from what diminishes you, you become more of who you are meant to be. You become a beacon of strength in a world that feeds on weakness, a source of calm in a sea of chaos. The teachings of the Stoics are not relics of a distant past, but living truths, as urgent and necessary now as they were in the days of Marcus Aurelius. They remind you that the only thing truly yours is your own mind, your own soul, your own response to the world. Everything else, love, approval, belonging, comes and goes like the tide beyond your control. But your dignity, your self-mastery, your capacity to walk away, these are the treasures that no one can take from you. So stand at the threshold and choose. Choose silence over noise, dignity over desperation, self-mastery over self-abandonment. Walk away not in anger, but in peace. Walk away not to punish, but to honor. Walk away and become the man you were always meant to be, whole, sovereign, unbreakable. And so as you step forward into this new way of being, you may notice the world shifting around you. The same situations that once triggered anxiety or self-doubt now feel strangely powerless. The people who once held sway over your emotions seem smaller, their approval less vital, their rejection less wounding. This is not because you have grown callous or indifferent, but because you have reclaimed the center of your own life. There is a profound serenity that settles in the heart of a man who no longer needs to chase. It is the serenity of knowing that you are enough, not because someone else says so, but because you have chosen to believe it yourself. This serenity is not loud or boastful. It is quiet, steady, and unyielding. It is the kind of confidence that cannot be faked, the kind that radiates from within and draws others in without effort or intent. You will notice too that your relationships begin to change. When you no longer seek validation, you invite only those who value you for who you truly are. When you are not afraid to walk away, you attract those who are not afraid to stay. The dynamic of power shifts, not in the sense of dominance or control, but in the sense of mutual respect and authenticity. You become a mirror for others, reflecting back to them the possibility of loving without clinging, of giving without expectation, of being without needing to possess. The world may still try to test your resolve. There will be moments of loneliness, moments when the old hunger returns, moments when you wonder if the path of self-mastery is worth the solitude it sometimes brings. In these moments, remember the words of Seneca, "No man was ever wise by chance." Wisdom is forged in the fires of experience, tempered by the willingness to face discomfort, and refined by the discipline to choose what is right over what is easy. To walk away is not always to leave forever. Sometimes it is simply to step back, to create space, to allow both yourself and others the freedom to breathe and grow. Sometimes it is the very act of letting go that allows something new and unexpected to enter your life, a deeper connection, a truer love, a more authentic self. But whether you return or move on, the lesson remains: you are not defined by what you hold on to, but by what you have the strength to release. The man who can walk away is not immune to longing or loss, but he is no longer ruled by them. He has learned to trust himself, to honor his boundaries, to find meaning not in the pursuit of others, but in the cultivation of his own soul. In time, you may find that the greatest gift of all is not the love of another, but the peace that comes from loving yourself. This peace is the foundation upon which all true relationships are built. It is the wellspring from which generosity flows, the anchor that holds you steady in the storms of life. And so as you move forward, carry this wisdom with you. Let your silence speak when words would betray your truth. Let your absence remind others and yourself of your value. Let your willingness to walk away be a testament to your self-respect. For in the end, the most magnetic man is not the one who chases, but the one who stands still, rooted, resolute, and unafraid to be alone. He is the man who knows that his worth is not up for negotiation, that his dignity is not for sale, and that his happiness is an inside job. This is the art of walking away. This is the quiet, unbreakable power of the Stoic man. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching.